Well, I suppose this is good news for people that were not exactly big fans of Thor Ragnarok, because that film took on a more comedic tone and route. It looks like Thor Love and Thunder wants to go in the opposite direction a bit. So let's get to that. I'll be honest with you, I don't begrudge anybody if they don't like Thor Ragnarok. It was definitely a complete shift into how Thor was being handled in the MCU with that film and that character going forward. If you look back at the first two films, they're much different in tone, in their visual palette, into what they were trying to do with that world, and how they were trying to make it more or less grounded, if you will. On the other hand, you had the likes of the Russo brothers who were trying to find a happy medium between what they wanted to do with the MCU version of Thor and what was done previously, and then you had Taika come in there and just go, yeah, I'm gonna flip everything upside down, I'm gonna give it a crazy visual, like 70s, 80s synthwave feel to it. It's just gonna be completely different. I'll go back to some of the old Ditko stuff, and I'll use all of that. And some people felt like that was jarring, and especially in the way that the story changed and the tone of the characters and everything. And now many people are looking at the upcoming fourth Thor film, Love and Thunder, trying to figure out which way is this going to go. Well, recently we did have a bunch of different interviews with a bunch of different people from the MCU, and this time we're going to talk about more of what came from Valkyrie herself. Specifically, Tessa Thompson saying that the new film is going to be different in many ways because they are going in a different route with these characters, but also that it's a very touching film at its core. Now look, they confirmed that they were going to be touching the whole side of the MCU that deals with more human elements with this film, such as the cancer storyline. You can't dehumanize that. That has to be a touching story. So, of course, I think when they look at this, it has to be more of an emotional ride. And I think some people are apprehensive to believe this because of the way Taika directs certain things and what he's known for. But again, I think this can be his way to approach a emotional point of the MCU storytelling without having to bend over backwards too much to change what he's done so far and what's been done with Thor. Because again, if we look at Thor, to a large degree, he's been handled like a more comedic character in the last couple appearances, and they are going to change that. I think you gotta evolve the character and take him in new directions. Characters have to see growth across franchises. They can't remain the same and stagnant and never learn a lesson or change, because that just becomes boring. So it's one of those things where I see some people reacting to this in a negative way, saying, well, how can you have a very touching story now with everything you've done with Thor? Again, it's all up to what is the story, which we know so little about. And it does feature Gore the God Butcher. So I think there's something there if you start connecting the dots that you can kind of see maybe which direction they'll take and give us that emotional resonance that people want.